I didn't go, I didn't post this on Instagram. Shoot. Let me see if I can real quick.
I
It's
need to
taking a little
I
bit.
need to find a social media person.
Go, I didn't. What, what is going on here? Well, we're live right now, and
Oh,
something is going on with my YouTube channel. There we go. I got it figured out. We are live with Kristina Solara. Actually, is that how you pronounce that?
you nailed it.
Okay, sweet. Because I didn't ask and I failed that. This is episode 42 of Networking with Nathaniel. Christina and I have known each other for a little while. This is actually the first time we're going to talk like in kind of a long form. We've just talked like one off. Hey, what's this deal look like? Are you interested in this kind of thing? But we're going to have an in-depth conversation. She's got a lot to talk about. Christina's been a sub two student for a little while now, 3-ish years. And so she's kind of an OG member of sub two, and she got her hands in some real estate with Pace kind of right after joining and became a mastermind member as well. So Christina's got a wealth of knowledge and experience under her belt, and she's really focused on flipping right now. And so we're going to kind of dive into that and see how the new South Carolina laws around wholesaling and real estate have affected her and her business and how we're moving forward together. So I appreciate you being here, Christina. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
How
for
are you doing
having
today? I know we've been talking a little bit, but I didn't ask. How are you doing?
me. I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
Um, Truth be told, my morning started off strange with a stray kitten who was hurt on my front porch. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but we got him off to the vet not too far from here. So
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say
that's
the
how my day
hippie.
started. It's
Yeah.
usually something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm doing well. How about you? I got to see your handsome sons a minute ago, and
Yeah, they are off social media children at this point. That was something that when we started having, our first kid, we talked about, and we didn't want to have them on any social medias until they could make the decisions
yeah,
themselves. So I'm glad that they were both awake and able to come say hi to you
I really,
before. And we're gonna do a in-person meetup together coming up here soon, hopefully, so we can see yours as well, and they can all meet
yeah.
and Christina. But I'd love to kind of chat with you and get started on where you're at kind of currently in your business, and maybe we'll extrapolate some of your prior experiences from there. So, kind of, what are you working on right now, and how's that going?
So, full transparency, that's how I am. I don't hide anything.
Yeah.
So even being, like you said, an OG, sub two student, I'm also an Astro student actually. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I joined Astro last year, so I could bring my son-in-law on board and teach him wholesaling. So, um, however, even all that experience, right? The 3 years in sub two, I was wholesaling, which is a dirty word in South Carolina now.
Mm.
But even before that, I had experience around, fixing and flipping and rehabbing and, all those kind of things. And even before that, I was in commercial construction. So before that, I worked in a realtor's office. So I've always kind of been, in one way or another involved in some type of real estate, right?
Mm.
So even with all of that, I got into flipping. I got a couple really good deals. My first one was a fire damaged property. That sounded like a great idea, right?
Oh,
Like
wow. Okay.
your first flip. Oh yeah, why not buy half a burnt house?
Yeah, let's dive off of the deep end.
So it actually wasn't too terribly bad. It was over 45% fire damage. It was a really interesting experience. I learned a lot. I've been able to help other flippers with their fire properties as well.
Okay.
But it kind of happened during that shift that happened in 22, right? Where, it went from, the COVID rush of everybody buying overpriced houses, and it kind of went into where inflation started. So our $100,000 rehab budget turned into $130,000, um, which, still wasn't horrible. But the 6 month project turned into a 13-month project. That was the hard
Okay.
part.
Yeah.
My our gross projection was going to be about $120,000 in profit. Ended up walking away with, I think, 45 after everything was said and done. So that kind of hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But we did set a new precedent in that area. everybody swore, there's no way you're going to get that much for this house. And I knew it in my heart. I was like, I know we're going to.
Mm.
And the appraisal actually came in even higher than our offer did, to
Oh
the
wow.
point that they wouldn't share it with us. So
Ah,
that was a good one. That was a good experience. In that process, I also bought a property in Folly Beach here in Charleston.
okay.
So for those that don't know, I'm all over the state actually. I legally reside in Charleston, spend most of my time in Columbia, and I'm trying to get to the mountains. So everybody can
Okay.
remember, find me something in the mountains. But yeah, so we bought a property out on Folly Beach. It was a double wide mobile home, and of course, out there near the beach, they have to be raised up. And we projected 45 days and 40,000, I believe, for the budget. It was a light rehab. It just needed, some new flooring and new paint. And then we ended up with a new HVAC and new plumbing. But anyway, that was the coolest one because we did it in 21 days on a $32,000 budget.
Wow.
And with my partner, who was also a student, she's an agent. I believe we grossed 98. So
Okay.
yeah, between us, and then of course she was
Yeah.
the agent, so she got her commissions and those
Yeah.
things. That was probably my favorite. After that, some things changed within my team. I had an in-house, construction team, and some things went sideways. They needed to be let go, and so I hired on a project manager, and things kind of went sideways from there. You don't know what you don't know until you realize you didn't know it.
Yeah.
So, learned some really hard lessons that I fully plan on sharing with others. I'm thinking about doing like a series or maybe even like a whole podcast, because I think it's important. We see the wins, we see you know, look at this amazing flip, and nobody really talks about like what goes into that or what to do when that goes wrong. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that, and just like anything else, I want to be transparent, and I want other people to learn from my mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be coming up here in the future. A little bit more information on that, kind of the do's and don'ts of flipping, especially if you're new. And we're calling that the flippin' truth.
Yeah, that's what we named this
Yeah, we
episode
did.
after, so
We're
we
gonna
kind of like
segue
it
into
teasing
that.
that. Yeah. I don't know how much details you want to give on that as you have these plans to kind of, create this series around it. But it's a little personal as well. So
Yeah, a
you don't have to name
little.
names or anything, but is
Yeah.
are you open to expanding on, a little bit and the lessons learned? Because like you said, and it is a good thing that we're seeing people's wins and the stuff because we want to be
Mhm.
propping that up and being positive and stuff. But seeing people's, loss, not necessarily losses, but lessons learned and hard truths and things like that as well, right? I see I made 100 grand on this flip and they post the check, but the
Yeah,
check doesn't necessarily have all the costs along the way, and they really walked away with 25 after everything's said and done. And seeing,
exactly.
like
Exactly.
peeling the
Well,
curtain back a little bit.
yeah, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to peel that curtain back, and it's just like watching these, some of these flipping shows, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, we bought this house for 60,000, and then you're kind of like, but did you really? Like, what else happened there? We just,
Yeah,
I just want to be honest about it. It was a messy situation. I made plenty of mistakes, right? Even with all of that experience that we talked about before, I made my share of mistakes, and I own those mistakes. And the hard part about it is, when you're flipping, you've got hard money, private money, you have all of these things that are tied up, and it's like, if you don't, it's like underwriting, right? Like if you don't have everything, nailed out, and then a contingency plan for not really if, but when something happens,
yeah,
it can definitely kind of put you into a tailspin.
yeah,
Um, Fortunately, I'm not one to just, walk away and stick my head in the sand and say, sorry guys, good luck. I got messed over, so I'm gonna pass that
yeah.
on.
We're
So
gonna, yeah,
yeah, it's been really hard, but I'm standing here fighting. I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that I honor, my obligations, and we'll deal with the rest,
mm,
how we need to. But
yeah,
but the important thing is, like I said, just making sure that other people have, kind of I don't know, kind of a guideline, I guess, if you will, like just some type of a template, to go off of. And so what that series or podcast may end up looking like is I plan on interviewing other people, right? Other people such as yourself as a connector, for if they decide to get into flipping, or I've got some contractors that are going to come in and
Okay.
talk to us like from their perspective, right? Because contractors are a major part of what's happening, and not all of them are, they're not all bad. They're not all just trying to take your money, but
Yeah.
um and then we've got, obviously lenders. I'd like to bring in some lenders, and let's go over, let's have the hard conversation. How did this go wrong? And what they can do to protect themselves.
Mm.
Because that's important too. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs, right? Like, we're all trying to make a living. um we just have to make sure that, we're protecting ourselves and, the people that we're bringing into these transactions with us.
I love what you've talked about here, and I wanted to kind of people don't realize that when you mentioned that the on the first flip that you did where it went from 6 months to 13 months, and the cost of the renovation didn't really go up. I mean, it went up 30%, but when you're talking about $100,000 and $30,000, not that much, but your profit went way down. And some people that haven't done the flipping before go, well, that doesn't make sense. How did the profit go from 100 to, I forget what you said, 40 when she
Mhm.
only spent $30,000 more? But the project took,
Yep.
what is that, 7 months longer? Is that right? No, 9 months
Yep.
longer. And
Yep.
there's, even if a thousand, $2,000 a month that you're spending on this money, having a
Mhm.
conversation with the hard money lender, like, hey, it's
Mhm.
going longer. Do we need to pay you? Like, is there fees that we need to pay? Like, all that stuff adds up to being really hitting you in your pocketbook.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and the
but
holding cost.
yeah, just like, yeah, you don't think about that either. What's electricity cost each month? Right? These contractors are in there working and they're running their power tools and all these things, and like that's sucking up energy. They're probably, depending on what time of year it is, the heat's on, the air conditioning's on, the
The
windows
busted
are
pipe.
open. Yeah, there you go. Like things are happening in there. And so it adds up really fast. And like you mentioned the underwriting and having like a contingency in I like to call it in case shit plan,
It's the
because
fan.
yeah, it's gonna hit the
Yeah.
fan in
Oh,
one way or
yeah.
another. Yeah. And so, having those contingencies and having an open conversation with your lenders and your partners and things like that. Another thing that you mentioned, which I actually just posted about a day or two ago, is you have a name and a reputation, and I want to protect that reputation, right? And so you said, I'm not one to just stick my head in the sand or walk away, because I want to be able to continue doing deals with these people
Yeah.
and these contractors and these lenders and stuff down the future. So if I'm the one that turns my back when stuff gets difficult,
Right.
nobody's going to want to work with me. And so
Exactly.
I think that's really powerful. And the hippie investor's got to live on.
No, and it's hard too, because it's, you know, I put myself in their shoes. Yes, they want their money. They deserve to have their money back, right? And sometimes when these deals, well, in my experience, these deals have gone sideways, and I'm I'm pivoting to try to figure out, okay, how can I get them made whole? What can I do to make them whole? Can I pull from another deal? Or, and it just seems like brick wall after brick wall after brick wall.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing all that, so I don't know if I told you, I have ADHD, right? So
Mm.
I'm like all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm over here and I'm like laser focused on, okay, I need to get this deal out of escrow, and I need to get some more acquisitions coming in. And I don't, I'm not techie at all, right? So I've just recently talked to another sub two leader actually here in South Carolina, and we're talking about him coming in as my integrator because I
Okay.
need one. But yeah, so like all of my systems just kind of went sideways, and it was really, really hard for me, because it's like I want to tell them, okay, 2 more weeks, but I don't have anything to tell them, because
Mhm.
you know once these other people, these contractors, once they made their decisions, it left me in a situation where I went, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
These were my friends, and they made some decisions that ultimately hurt my business. And now I've got to protect these people regardless.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna make any money on these projects at this point, but I'm gonna make sure I make them whole. If that means I lose sleep, if that means, I'm doing, before the law change, wholesaling, if no matter what I had to do, even to the point that I'm probably going to sell my own property, my own house, just so I can, make sure that I make them whole. So,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I will do that, right? Like I will go down swinging, the communication end, I can tell you now, like if you put all of my lenders into one conversation or one chat, they'd go, Kristina, you really need to reach out more, right? But then I'm over here going, but I don't have anything to say. Like I
Uh,
want to tell them, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I've got, if I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer, like I want to call you when I've got that answer, so I am working on that. I am, I've got a system now where every Friday I'm messaging and saying,
okay.
what I'm working on. But
Yeah.
in the middle of all of that, of course, we got this new law thrown at us, right? And so now we're all pivoting, with this new law. And I'm kind of excited about it because it actually opens up the possibility to get not only better deals, build new relationships, make my lenders whole, but help other people be able to navigate this law. Because I have been working and spending quite a bit of time with a lot of attorneys, title companies, and such, just trying to make sure that people in my world, right? Like the people who reach out to me, and I want to make sure everybody has, kind of a path that they can take.
Yeah. Yeah. I have not, because we've pivoted away from wholesaling, um, and are just focusing on buying. I really haven't. Oh man, this one always gets me.
So,
Doven,
do, do,
dovered,
we haven't
divered.
dove into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
dove.
haven't delved. There we go.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I haven't delved into this too much. So I've been looking forward to this, talking to you about it because I know that you've been looking a lot into this and you've been listening to the different um experts. I don't know
Yeah.
necessarily they need to be quoted, but experts talk about this and kind of figure the waters out themselves. So like in a as dumbed down um as you can make it for me, what's going on with that new law and how is that kind of affecting the wholesalers and how they're going about not only negotiating the contract with the seller, but moving it to the other side with the investor buyers?
So essentially, and without kind of getting into the weeds about it, some people will continue to wholesale, and I think it's a little risky because not so much as the law is written. I think it's more of how some would like us to interpret the law. However, for the most part, I think what's going to help those that were wholesaling. I think what's going to help the most is pivoting into creative structures, right?
Mm.
So, for people who don't necessarily understand what that means, that would be like seller finance. Most people understand seller finance, right? So let's say you've got a seller, and the seller was going to sell their property to you for, let's say, $100,000, right? Okay, well, Mr. Seller, I'm going to get you, instead of that, cash contract, that cash purchase agreement, we're going to do a seller finance. So what that looks like is, you get all of your terms onto your contract just like you would, and then you're going to move that, obviously to your attorney, and then they're going to create the documents that are going to be needed in South Carolina. Because again, it's an attorney state, so we
Mhm.
don't have just the title companies, which is handy because they can create all the documents that are needed and tell you what you're going to need. So we just structure it in a seller finance, agreement. So instead of 100,000 cash sale with like a $10,000 assignment, we do 100,000 seller finance with, let's say, $5,000 down. And instead of 30 days, it might look like 45 to 60 days.
Okay.
The part that I like about it is, let's say Mr. Seller, if he was going to be a cash contract, you hear a lot of times this, one of the seller's concerns is going to be, well, I need to pack. I need time to pack and move, but I need money to move. So this actually helps them because you can come and say, okay, well, it's going to take us a little bit longer anyway, right? Like it's going to take us a little bit longer to get through, maybe title or, the paperwork or whatnot. But Mr. Seller, I'm going to give you $5,000 up front, right?
Mhm.
And at the beginning of this transaction, so that you can go ahead and pack and move and do what you want. Then you're not doing like, the post closing possession and those kinds of things.
Okay.
Um, and then it works out. So it's basically a balloon, right? So if you put your balloon at, let's say, 90 days, right? Then the minute that the seller finance contracts have been recorded, they're on record at the Register of Deeds, instantly you can start marketing that property because you own it. You can put
Yeah.
it on the market. You can pass it to your buyers. You can go in and, do a little cosmetic rehab. Maybe the carpets need shampooed and it needs some paint, whatever it is, it kind of changes how we can help the sellers. And
Mm.
it also kind of helps us as well, because maybe instead of that $10,000 assignment, you can do a little bit of work to the property and make $20,000, right? By putting it on the market or, listing
Yeah.
it, however you want. Because at that point, you own it and you're not in violation of the new law.
Hmm. It does seem like it makes the barrier to entering into wholesaling.
Harder.
Yeah, it makes the bar a little bit higher because if we're just taking this specific example, right, I'm having to come up with $5,000, which there's ways around that. We could talk gator lending if you want to talk about that, or we can dive down that divered
Dive.
down, yeah, duck deep dived and dodge. See ADHD as well.
I love
But
it.
it makes it, you have to be a little bit more versed. Maybe that means going and partnering up with somebody who, like yourself, that can figure out how to structure this thing to where the seller's getting ultimately what they want. They're just having to wait, 45 or 60 days, like you're saying, to get their full chunk of cash. So this is interesting. This is not what I was expecting you to say as far as the seller finance goes. I was thinking, you're going to have to be better at pitching somebody seller finance where it's going to be a longer term, but this is just like you're saying, it's a balloon. So for everybody out there that maybe not know what a balloon is, essentially $100,000 the balloon is going to pop and you're going to owe $100,000 to this person at X date. So typically we're hearing, 7-year balloon, 10-year
Mhm.
balloon. Some sellers want a 3-year balloon. This would be a 60-day balloon, right? I'm going to give you some cash right now as essentially my down payment for the seller finance deal, right? I think I'm tracking Christina, but
You
um,
are. No, I'm
yeah,
with you.
okay. And then in 60 days the balloon's going to pop. I'm not going to be the one that pays the balloon
Right.
out. It's going to be the person that I would have wholesaled it to or assigned it
Exactly.
to. Yeah, okay. So yeah,
And
this
if
is
you if you think about it, though, in my opinion, it gives you a little bit more. Um, it gives you a little bit more to be able to help the seller with, right? Because again, I mean, yes, their problem might be, they're wanting to move across country to be with their grandkids, whatever it is. But instead of, okay, you're going to have to list your property, you're going to have to, do all these things, clean it up, stage it, have people in and out all the time. Number one, that's why they would talk to us in the first place, right? Like they just don't love that.
yeah.
Um, and then the other side of it is, they're going to need a little bit of money to get their process moving, right? Whatever that might look like. So I think it's another tool in the tool belt already, right? Seller finance, or anything creative, right? And for those of us that are already well versed in creative finance, I think this is perfect, right?
Yeah.
Because all we had to do was go, and then it's okay. Well, now instead of trying to close these properties super quick and finding an end buyer for an assignment, now okay, I need to find a transactional lender, like you said, maybe a gator lender or whoever, it and it actually brings more people together, right? Because then you've got your seller, and then you have someone like myself or you that that they're going to buy it. Then you
Mhm.
have a lender that's going to come in, and then you have your actual end buyer. And at that point, it could even be a home buyer, right? It could be a
Right.
homestead buyer. It doesn't have to be an investor.
Yeah.
So I think it opens up a door for a lot of people if you know how to do that, and you already you have those systems in place.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about you, but I know like with, with myself, I love partnering with other people. I love working with other people.
Yep.
So, bringing in more lenders, so if you know of any lenders that are like, hey, I'll partner on some stuff, you know,
Yeah.
I, I think it's a great way for us all to be able to pivot together and maybe even make a little bit more money and help more sellers, you
Yeah.
know? So,
I don't know if you're familiar with the kids artist, songwriter Raffi. I know you have
mhm,
kids. Okay, yeah, he has like the more we get together, the happier
yep,
we'll be.
yep,
And so like collaboration, let's do more stuff together, let's do bigger things together. I agree, like this is gonna bring, right, for somebody I guess I wouldn't want to necessarily put the $5,000 myself. We could, but I wouldn't. So I'm gonna go find somebody that's willing to put the $5,000 down, and maybe they're gonna make, they're gonna get $7,000 or whatever their number is when the thing's back. So I lose a couple $1,000s out of the assignment fee, but I don't have to figure out how to get the $5,000. So
right.
the other thing, it does seem, while it seems like it's making the barrier of entry harder for a new person to get into, it also is making it harder for new people to screw sellers.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of,
It's a filter.
yeah, it seems like I don't know what the intention behind this was, but it does seem like there's people that have been dragged month, 2 months, only to find out a day or two before they're closing that
It's not going to
the
happen.
person's not closing on the deal because they couldn't find a buyer. And so it
Mhm.
seems like if that was the real intent, there could have been other ways to go about this. But I digress from that, and this is where we're at. So it does seem like, I'm not going to be able to just have a conversation with a seller and they say, I want 160,000. Okay, I'll give you 160,000, even though the house is only worth 120,000, and no investor buyer is going to buy it for 120,000. If it's worth 120,000, they're going to buy it for 80,000 or
Right.
whatever the number is. So
Your
like,
underwriting has to be on
yeah,
point,
yeah,
and it should have been that way, to begin with,
right.
otherwise you're doing everybody a disservice.
Yeah,
But and here's the thing too. I mean, not to discourage anybody who's new. I mean, if there's somebody who's new and they have, the work ethic and the drive and they want to learn, they could come to any one of us, or they could jump in the South Carolina creative group. We'll help them.
yeah,
We'll help them. Just if you're new, partner with somebody who's done it before. Partner with somebody who has a system and they have buyers, and start learning. Bring some value to them. Hey,
yeah,
what can I help you with? And they'll help you. They'll I know I would,
yeah,
right? Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I know how to go get sellers, but I don't know how to get it to the finish line. Come on,
yeah,
JV with me.
yep,
Let's go. I'll take your hand,
yeah. We got you. Yeah.
you
If
know.
not Christina, I'll do it. You plugged it there. I want to make sure we plug it again at the end, but why don't you give the name of the Facebook group there so anybody at this point can make sure that they follow along.
I can't help but talk about it. It's such an
Yeah.
amazing group, but it's
Yeah.
a South Carolina Creative Real Estate Investing. So SCCRAI.
And
We are mostly, well, I say mostly, a good portion is sub two students, Astro students, and other investors who are already doing creative finance or they want to learn creative finance. And it's growing and it's so much fun. It really good people in there. So,
yeah, I
you
can
know,
attest to that. The people that I see I know a lot of them, and yeah, they are good people. I will make sure that that link gets put in the description on this YouTube video, so anybody can just go click the link instead of having to go try to search it, and make sure that you find the right one. Just click the link and it'll get you right to the right page. And if you see Christina there, that's the right group.
well,
Although you're
I should.
probably in a lot of other groups too, so
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say too, like I should probably pop a disclaimer in there. It is not a sub two sanctioned group or anything like that. It's
right.
just we all happen to be sub two. Well, not all of us, but there's a lot of sub two students in there because that's what we do is creative finance. Because Pace is a great mentor and teacher, and he taught us how to do this.
Yeah.
So
I I I've said it to a bunch of people lately is that, he's got this huge umbrella that he's created and we're all under this umbrella and he's given so much to us, and it's almost our duty to be able to give back to everybody
exactly.
else. Like you're saying, somebody that's just trying to get started into this, and is looking at the new rules and going, oh man, I think that
Yeah,
like that's going to turn me away from it. Don't, because there's people like myself, there's people like Christina, there's other people, not only from sub two, but even just real estate as a whole that they've been given to when they first got started, and it's not an obligation. It's, we want to be able to give back. That's
Truly.
how this thing goes. And I get by giving as well. Just, the best thing you can do to learn something yourself is to teach it. And so the more I can teach and the more I can walk through processes with different people, the more I can grow and become better. So I appreciate you for allowing me to segue to that.
Oh, of course. Well,
Yeah.
you know my good friend Paul, right?
Hmm.
Paul Birmingham. PB is the man. Love him.
Yeah.
But he actually said something earlier that makes so much sense. He said a rising tide raises all ships. And
Mm.
that's exactly what this is, right? Like the tide's kind of rising and like we have all these law changes and all these things that are happening and if we go together, right? Like we all come up together. Like that's
Yeah.
all it is. There's no need to compete with anybody. If we all collaborate, then we all get to eat.
Yeah.
There's room at the table, and if not, we're going to build a bigger table.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
you know
I love that. So I know that we've talked about where you've kind of been at this point. What are you working on right now? And what does the next 6 months look like for you? Where are we trying to get to?
so I mean, effectively, the biggest thing is what I call putting out the fires, right? Like just kind of sifting through some of these well, there's two properties left, that are kind of caught up in that situation that I was dealing with. So
Mhm.
my very first thing is to get all of my lenders made whole and figure out the disposition of the properties. um, One would make an amazing co-living or sober living. So if maybe any of your listeners are interested, it's in Columbia, holler at me.
Okay.
And then the other one, I'm looking for some contractors, and I need to get that one finished. That's a cute little mobile home on 7 acres in Columbia as well. So but aside from that, so my focus is going to be more on helping more sellers, whereas I was wholesaling before. I'm going to be buying a lot more properties.
Okay.
So always looking for I've always been more on the disposition side.
Okay.
Because of my years and years in real estate, I've got buyers pretty much everywhere in the Carolinas, and really across the country. But my focus is here because it's home. Um, even in the hard parts, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, always looking for deals, and other people to work with, other lenders, for those kinds of deals. I am not going to be fixing and flipping anymore. um,
Okay.
at least not in that sense. Like I'm not going to be purposefully purchasing properties. It's kind of funny, Nathan, because I wasn't called to be a flipper. I actually feel like my calling is a lot deeper than that, and I don't want to take up all the time. We can
We got
probably
25 minutes left.
okay.
We got 20 minutes left because I got a couple things I want to ask at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Go
Long
go
story
into it if you want.
short,
Yeah.
yeah. Long story short, and anybody watching this that knows me is going, "Yeah, right."
Yeah.
But I my mom said I was born real quiet. I started talking at 2 and never shut up, so she's probably not wrong. But I really feel like, well, I've been told by several different prophet types. Do you understand? Prophets and prophetizing and that kind of thing. Okay,
Hmm.
so prophesying. There's another one of
Yeah.
those words. Anyway,
Prophecy.
so
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been told a couple things throughout the years, but God literally gave me a vision, and that vision was to create a wellness type retreat for people who, like me, have chronic illness.
Mm.
Um, thank God I'm in remission, but there was a time when I couldn't even get out of bed in the morning. So one night I got into an argument with God. You know how that goes. It was one sided. So I'm going, God, if you're going to make me wake up every day, and so I asked God to give me something that I could work towards. And I had this dream about a place where people, it was massive, massive estate. And people would walk in, sick, or they'd be in a wheelchair, and they're hobbling, they're hurting, and they're going in, but the people that were coming out on the other side were standing upright and
Mm.
and healed, right? um and then a few days goes by, understanding I was in a really dark place at the time, right? um and I'm walking through a pasture with my horse. I've got him by the lead, and I'm walking him over to a pond that had a little fountain in it that kept it going.
Okay.
I'm crying. I'm talking to my horse. He probably should have charged me by the hour at this point. And I was like, buddy, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I've got to do something with my life. I'm meant for more. I knew that, but then I was like, it's just so much. It's so much. I'm sick and I had hurt my back and I was working and operating an organic farm at the time.
Mm.
Um, and I was broke, you know the deal. And so
Yeah.
it was a really hard place. And so we get over to this pond and he used to like to walk down in it to kind of cool off his belly. And we get over to the pond. And just as soon as we got to that pond, as clearly as I'm hearing you talk to me right now, I heard, I lead you by the still water. And I went, wait a minute. The fountain was not working. The water was not moving. And I said, I see what you did there, God. Okay. So fast forward about 5 years, I started this company, which
Mm.
is Stillwater. So,
Yeah.
um, but a part of that, it never, I don't think I was ever meant to be doing the fixing and flipping. I need to be finding Stillwater. Like, where does God want me to build this thing and what's it going to look like? And in the mountains. So anybody watching, you see the mountain. Yeah, just
Yeah.
remember, I'm the girl that wants property in the mountains. Um, so yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to focus on wellness retreats, I guess campgrounds. So
Okay.
people can understand that a little bit better, maybe with the cottages and the, different different modalities, right? Like we could have, mindfulness retreats. I love vision boards.
Okay.
Vision boards, and even so much as like saunas and ice baths and, things like that. And maybe not the concept that a lot of people are going with lately where it's like Bluetooth everything and Wi-Fi everything and it's all
Uh,
the new technology. I want it to be a place where people can take this little thing and set it down and just
yeah.
get
Yeah.
back to just being,
Yeah.
when I'm not doing real estate, I study holistic wellness. And the one thing that I've learned in my wellness journey and, in my studies is sometimes you have to unplug. And that's the pot calling the kettle black because I haven't had a day off in over 2 years and I haven't had a vacation in four. So I need to go build that retreat for myself. Not,
Yeah.
but yeah,
They
so
say
that's
the
what
greatest ideas come from a self-need, right? Or
it
what
does.
yeah. So
Yeah, it absolutely
I'm
does.
also I'm also seeing in the chat Pansy is very interested in this wellness retreat. So
Oh man,
yeah.
I I literally dream about it. And if you give me 2 more minutes, I'll tell you something totally crazy. This is why I know I'm not crazy.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay,
Yeah.
real
I know
fast.
Pansy's on edge to hear the rest of the story too.
Oh, this,
Yeah.
and I wish I could show it to you, but it's on the other side of my office. I'll have to post it. But 3 years ago, first time I ever met Pace and Jamel, they were in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
I had a partner at the time. I actually met him around the same time I met you. His name was Uriah.
Okay.
He's still in sub two. He's amazing. I love him. He's the midterm rental guy now, but we went to go walk a property before we went to the meetup with Pace and Jamel. And we get to this property and it was a rental. They were getting ready to put it on the market to rent it. It was empty. There was nothing that wasn't nailed down, carpet, a stove, a refrigerator. And so Uriah was like, okay, I'm going to talk to the seller. You go do the measurements and go do your thing. Right. So I'm good at inspecting and that kind of thing. And so I go room to room. I do all the things. I get to the very last room, Nathaniel, the very last room. There's nothing out of place anywhere. And it had that like the double door closet. And I open
Okay.
the closet and I go, what? And they come running. They're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, what is this? And where did it come from? And Mr. Tom looks over at Uriah and goes, did you put that there? And he goes, you let me in. How did I listen? It is a 3 foot by 3 foot black and white picture of this majestic estate with mountains behind it, snow in the front of it. Absolutely fantastically, the exact vision that God gave me for Stillwater.
What the heck?
My daughter was in the car. I was like, Mr. Tom, if you don't know where it came from and you don't know what it is, can I have it? And he said, yeah, you can have it. I said, bet. I run downstairs. They follow me. I had it facing me and I hollered for my daughter to roll down the window. And I've been talking about this for years, right? And I turned the picture around and I said, "Hey, Emmy, tell me what this is." And I turned it around and she goes, "Mama, that's Stillwater." I said, "I know." So we took it to the meetup. Pace, Jamil, everybody that was there signed it.
Oh,
It was
wow.
wild. And it's on my wall. And on the bottom of it, where the snow is, I had them sign around this one spot. And that's
Okay.
where I keep my vision board because that's going to be what gets me to Stillwater.
Okay.
So I'm passionate about it if you can't tell.
I can
Um,
tell. Yeah.
I
That's
just
awesome.
I want so bad to help people,
Yeah.
like I know what it's like, and I used to ask God all the time, why do I go through all the hard things? And I think the answer is, even if your situation isn't exactly like somebody else's, you can still, if you have a little bit of experience with it, you can empathize with them and help them a little bit better, right? So I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry if I derailed, but you
No,
asked what
this is
I
it.
was doing next, and
Yeah.
that's my focus is going to be on that. But for now, I'm going to keep doing, I'm going to keep doing the short flips or the, we call it wholetailing or subtailing, these properties, to help these sellers too, because, there's a lot of foreclosure happening. A
Mhm.
lot of people got in over their heads during COVID. And so yeah, so we're always looking for deals, that anybody watching, if they've got some deals around here, we'll take a look at them for sure. And we'll JV, we'll do
Yeah.
whatever we need to do to help the seller. And then we're gonna we as in me and the mouse in my pocket, I'm gonna be working on that podcast because I think that or that series, if you will. I want to be very clear to people. I don't want anybody else to be in this position. This is a hard position to be in, I pride myself on keeping my word. It's really important to me. And I know that it would have been a lot less challenging for myself and my lenders had I done X, Y, and Z, right? So I've got a notebook. I've been kind of just taking notes and learning from my experience so I can share that with other people. So
Mhm.
those are the three main things that I'm working on. And so once we've put out the fires and once we've gotten the information out there, like the full focus, I've got a camper. I bought sub two. Have camper
Okay.
will travel. I'll go, and the other thing is too, of course, working with South Carolina Creative Real Estate Investing, I'm pulling other, leaders, kind of in there and I want to go talk to other leaders and I'll be the one to fall on the sword and go, "Hey guys, don't be a knucklehead." This is what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So that's it. I have a heart for helping people and I'd love to make some money along the way, you know. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing all this, and I look forward to seeing, you go into more depth on exactly kind of what transpired and how you could have prevented some of the things that did happen. And
Yeah.
I want to, I guess, congratulate you for not everybody's able to take ownership of what happened like you are, and at least at this point, maybe it wasn't that way as it was going on,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was the contractor's fault. The lender didn't tell me this. Like just as much outward as we can instead of
Yeah.
looking inward and going, what did I mess up? What could I have done differently?
Everything.
Yeah, well, probably not to that extreme, but yeah, yeah. I'm sure there was some things that you did correctly too. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because as we were talking beforehand, well, I guess we talked about it, well, since we've been live too, is like hearing the mess ups, right? Seeing the good is great, but seeing the mess ups and oh, that's a pitfall that I can avoid now because Kristina was willing and to share it and be open and honest about this. It helps all the people that are just getting started and even, down the line as well. So it's those are the ones that I look out for, like because you don't learn from wins as much as you learn from losses, right?
Right.
The wins are easy. So
And the
uh
lessons, yeah. And
yeah.
and that's just it. If it took me going through all of this, like, and it's been embarrassing, right? It's been all the things. I've cried and cried and like it's been all of that. But if it helps one person, I
Hmm.
could spend 100 hours putting this thing together. If
Yeah.
it helps one person, I would do it all over again just to help that one person. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yeah. That's amazing. What besides the property in the mountains, I guess before I ask that, what kind of a property in the mountains are you looking for? Is it 3 acres? Is it 50 acres? Does it like,
So I'm looking to live in the mountains personally myself.
okay.
Um, Stillwater, God said 53 acres. I have no
Okay.
idea why. I have no idea where, but it has to be at least 53 acres.
Okay.
I know. Um, Either way, whether it's for myself or to build Stillwater, always looking for land, whether it has a house on it or not. I don't know if Stillwater already exists, even though I have a picture of it. I don't
Uh,
know if it already exists or if
mm,
it's something I'm going to have to build, right? I don't know.
yeah.
I've Googled lens that thing so many times and I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the land always needs, in the mountains, I don't want to be hanging off a cliff, right? So there needs to be some flat spaces, maybe some pasture land, and regardless of the property, if it's an acre to 1,000 acres, I don't care as long as it has fresh, year-round fresh water, spring,
Okay.
pond, lake, river. I don't care. It just has to have water because obviously,
Yeah.
it's a necessity to life.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I'm not picky. And the cool thing about it is, even if it's if you brought me a deal and it was like, maybe that one's not for me. It's not what I'm looking for. I've got somebody who's going to want it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, land is pretty big, and not necessarily just in the mountains, because I'd like to build these retreats eventually, kind of all over, especially in the southeast, Tennessee,
Okay.
Georgia. So yeah, I'm not super picky about it.
Stillwater 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
57. Okay.
Like
Or
give
50.
it, give it different names, like
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
whatever, Stillwater Lakewood, or like whatever. They can all have their own
Mm.
names. And how about this? If whoever brings me a deal where we build one of our retreats, we'll somehow figure out a way to name it after them. How about
Okay.
that?
I like this.
We'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. I love
I
it.
think that would be fun.
So my next question would be, let's just say somebody found you this a property that was suitable for Stillwater 1.0. What's
1.0.
yeah, what other things are you gonna need to get this thing up and running? My head goes, I can imagine some things, but what have you thought through, and how can maybe other people help along this journey as well?
Oh my goodness. People who have experience with, I've got this much land development experience. So
Okay.
got into a really cool deal one time. But um yeah, partners. Listen, what do they say? If you want to go, if you want to go far, you have to go with others. I don't remember how the adage
Mm,
goes, but yeah, like I don't want to do this by myself.
yeah.
Hello, I get myself in trouble when I do things by myself. But no, I'd really like to have some partners, people who know land development, people who know, RV parks, or, whatever.
Okay.
If anybody wants to volunteer to be my mentor, like I would love that,
Okay.
private money partners obviously are going to be needed. I'd like to learn a little bit more about capital raising for that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's gonna take an army, I think, to get Stillwater off the ground. And
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be, it's one of those things that is so niche that it's gonna be people, it's gonna need to be people who value health and wellness, and those kinds of things. So yeah.
Pansy did ask a question in the chat where you're looking. I know you've mentioned the Carolinas a couple times. You also mentioned just the Southeast. Are there other places that you'd be open to looking at these land opportunities?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah. I've
Yeah, okay.
Here's the funny thing though. I think that the trees in this are like, it looks Pacific Northwest to me. I could be
Mm,
wrong. I've
yeah.
never even been there and I want to go so bad. So yeah, if you bring me a land deal and we make it happen, then I'll get to go to all these other places, and I'm okay with that too.
Awesome.
Absolutely okay with that.
Yeah, thank
Once
you
I
for
sell
asking on
this
that.
house, like where I live, like, hey, look here, the world is my oyster. It's myself and my 12-year-old and a camper. Let's
And a
go.
camper, yeah. That's
I'm here for the
a
adventure, man.
Yeah, I love it. Before we part, Christina, I like to ask everybody if they've got any books, any podcasts, any documentary recommendations. It can be real estate, business related, or just something that you're finding fascinating from your homesteading and things like that.
Oh my. Um,
Try to choose three.
Currently, huh?
Three.
Three of them? Oh,
Can
you're
you?
killing me.
We'll narrow it down. Yeah.
I
Gotta
can't
focus. Yeah.
reach them. So I have a couple books by Daniel Amen. Uh,
Okay.
it he talks a lot about like neurological health and how having like childhood illnesses and things like that can affect you as you get older. And I'm
Mm.
really sorry, I actually don't. You caught me off guard.
Nope. Yeah, I should have mentioned it before we started.
I know it's over. It's way over there.
Okay.
So yeah, Daniel Amen. And the one that I'm currently enthralled with right now is Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership.
That's where, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was, whoo, that's a gut punch,
Yeah.
but it's so needed. It really is. Because I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, sure, like you said, I could throw everybody under the bus and be like, well, they did this and that. And you know what? It'll all come out in the wash. Like I even right now, like I don't even feel a need to go, well, this happened and that. No, but the ownership bit, it applies to us as parents, right? It applies to us as entrepreneurs because at the end of the day, if you're not leading effectively because you're not able to take ownership of your actions,
Yep.
the rest of your team is going to fall
Yeah.
and you're failing them. And I don't I that's why at the very beginning I told you this is the only the first podcast out of 26 I've been invited to because I
Yeah.
my concern was I didn't want to fail anybody. I
Yep.
didn't want to make them look bad, you know. So yeah, at the heart of it, that is where we start. And anybody who is new in real estate needs to read or listen to that book.
Yeah. I listened to it. I should do both. That's
Oh
what
yeah,
David Alex Hormozy recommends is read while you're listening to it and you get you absorb more that way. But um, we live life on the go a lot of the times driving for properties and things like
yeah,
that. So it's
it's
like, okay,
hard.
let me absorb this while I'm doing that. So
Yeah.
I it's funny you mentioned this because I just brought it up this morning to my wife, Brittany. The toddler, well, I mean both kids at this point they're going through these little fussinesses things and they're having trouble listening and not listening the first time. It's like, what are we doing that is creating this behavior in it? And it's not the toddler's fault. There's something that I'm doing. And it's not just business wise, it's everything. You could take
It is.
extreme ownership in every little aspect. So I think that's amazing. It
Can
doesn't
I
look
give
like there's, oh, what? Yeah, go for it.
can I give you just a
Yeah.
thought in
Yeah.
this? And I never say this as an attack on anybody at all because some people just don't know. Red dye number 40.
No, they don't get any of that. Yeah.
They don't eat Doritos, Cheetos, anything. Okay. Because
Yeah.
some people don't realize red dye 40 is in so many foods and
Yeah,
it
that's
affects a lot of children.
yeah. That's why
Uh,
Brittany was like, no, no, no. It's
Take it
amazing. I
all
think,
out.
yeah, up until just a few months ago, our oldest he had never had high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah.
That's great
So,
parenting, right? And it's hard,
well,
right?
that's
It's
yeah.
hard because we're on the go and it's like, what are we going to feed the kids? And but we learned with my 12-year-old, she was a tiny tornado. And when she
Mm,
was given red 40, it was like the Tasmanian devil. Okay.
really
Yeah, we took away the red 40 and it brought her it brought, I mean,
interesting.
she's got ADHD like her mom, but she's not literally climbing, she would literally climb the doorways, like we'd have to walk under her to get into other rooms. It was wild.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, that's also kind of impressive as well. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Of course, 18 months old. Where's Gracie? Oh,
Yeah,
she's on
what the
top of
heck?
the
She's
refrigerator.
Spider Girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Before
So
we part here, I want to make sure that you replug the Facebook group and however, if somebody's got land, a seller that they need help with, if they've got money to lend for your deals that you're doing in South Carolina and beyond, how do people get in contact with you personally? And then how do they get in contact with the group again?
for sure. It's South Carolina Creative Real Estate Investing. So
Mhm.
SCCREI. And I am at Kristina Solara on every platform. And as of yet, I think I am the only Kristina Solara, but it's Kristina with a K.
Yeah, just like we see it here on the screen. And I'll make sure that those different socials and the Facebook group is linked in the description here of the YouTube channel. So hopefully by the time anybody else is watching this, I know live you don't see that stuff yet, but we'll make sure that they're there for the future. So anybody watching this in the future is able to just scroll down, click and get right to wherever you want to go in Christina's world. It has been a pleasure. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
can't wait to have you on my podcast.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I will make sure to set time aside for you. I know, and I do use a calendar, so we'll make sure to work out.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Hang
you.
out here for a little bit, Christina.